Arrow Season 2, Episode 7, titled State vs. Queen. Now, I just finished watching this episode, so I'm kind of stuck on that final scene, which is actually really, really amazing. And, I enjoyed this whole episode. I thought it was really good because of, it had like three separate stories when you kind of think about it, because it had, the trial, it had, Count Vertigo, and it also had the flashback scene. But, obviously the most important thing about it was what's going to happen in Moira's trial? Is she going to get the death penalty or is she going to live? It's one or the other. It's living or dying. So that was really the main focus. And it was just a really good story. And then the end of it just made it amazing because of, just the twists that come about. We get two great twists. So, we get two great twists. We get, Brother Blood back. We get, some hints towards some other amazing stuff that's going to be coming up in future episodes. So it was a great episode. It was good all the way up until the end, and then it was just amazing to me because there was so much that they just threw in like the last couple of minutes, and it was great. But I love this episode. I like how it started with it being 6 months ago, and Count Vertigo escapes the prison because the Glades are being destroyed, and I love how they have him let out the doll maker. So it was interesting to see the Glades being destroyed and Count Vertigo getting released is what allowed for the doll maker to get released, because he was going through the prison and he was like, oh, I love your work, and she was like, big future ahead or something like that. So it was kind of cool to see that. And then he escapes from the prison through like the giant hole in the wall, which kind of looked like a V for Vertigo. But he comes back to the city 6 months later. I'm assuming that was just to get connections, and of course, Brother Blood. So, he gets these connections and he makes a new strain of Vertigo, and he starts to infect people using flu vaccinations. So it was a pretty good episode trying to figure out, how are people getting infected? Is it a plague? Is it airborne? But some people are affected, some people aren't. What's going on? How are people getting infected? But they have no idea how. So it was great to go through that. And also that scene, how that whole situation ended was actually very great too, because this whole season Oliver decided, after last season, I'm not gonna kill anymore. I'm gonna basically be, I'm gonna be Green Arrow. He's gonna be the guy who stops villains, but he doesn't stop them by putting an arrow through them. So he ends up getting busted because Felicity tries to save Diggle because Oliver is dealing with the court case. So Felicity goes, she gets captured, and Count Vertigo figures out Oliver is Arrow, and Oliver goes, and it was cool that he went, as Arrow, but he had his hood down, even though it was obvious that Count Vertigo knew who he was, but we still don't ever get to see him just walk around as the Hood with his hood down. So it was cool to see that, because any other time it's just like, it's like, hey, I know you're you, and then he takes his hood off and they talk, but he actually had an entire fight with his hood off, which was very minor, but it was just cool to me because he was like in his own office and stuff as Arrow, but he had his mask down and everything like that. So it was kind of cool to me. But he ends up killing Count Vertigo, and I figured he had to kill this guy because you can't, like, this guy's so insane. He drugs people to get money and stuff. Obviously he's not just gonna be like, I'll keep your secret. So I figured he had to kill him. But how they did it, Felicity was in danger and she was going to be injected with Vertigo, and Oliver put Count Vertigo down. He shot 3 arrows through him, and flew out the window. And it was crazy. It just, like, every episode so far has kind of just been null and void, him not killing people. I mean, it's not exactly null and void, but it kind of just reset now because he has to start all over again trying to be a good guy. And it probably won't be as difficult, but if he has people that do happen to come back who are like Count Vertigo, and they, figure out his identity, or if anyone figures out his identity, he'd probably be forced to kill them. And, he kills one of those guys, but at the end of this episode, we get Tommy Merlin back, or Malcolm Merlin, sorry. And, he knows who Oliver is, so he may or may not have to kill him, which I guess wouldn't really matter because he died and he came back to life. And I'm going to assume, and, this is very obvious because they talk about how, when the League of Assassins came in, Oliver thought that the guy who attacked him in his mansion was Malcolm because of the same clothing. Malcolm was a part of the League of Assassins, so whatever happened after he died, they gathered his body for some reason and they took him to the Lazarus pit and they brought him back to life. So he's alive now. So however that plays out, he may just help, Moira like he did in the case, which was interesting. And I love that scene when, they say she's not guilty and Oliver like mouths the words like I don't believe it because all of this crazy stuff that happened, she's an accomplice to this and kills, hundreds of people, and she has an affair with Malcolm Merlin, which we find out in the end of this episode wasn't just a little affair that they had at one moment. They were together for quite some time, and the result of that is actually that Thea is Malcolm's daughter. So who knows how that's gonna play out because he'll probably just lord that over her just like he did, basic threats and stuff. So it'll kind of go back to season one in a sense, but I feel like he has, obviously with the Glades being destroyed now, he's gonna have some new crazy plan, set in motion. So I'm excited to see how that plays out and when we'll get to find out, or when we get to see Thea learning that Malcolm's actually her dad. Sorry, and that everyone basically figuring out Malcolm is alive in general because he can't go around as the Black Hood anymore because obviously Oliver would say, hey, that's Malcolm, how is he alive? But then again, he could because, you don't, generally when you kill someone, you don't expect them to come back to life. So I'm excited for, what comes up next week, or well, I guess not next week, it's going to be December 2nd. But, I'm excited for the next episode, which ties into Brother Blood's story, where he finally got someone to basically pass the first test with whatever crazy serum he created. And, they had like the row of guys and all of them died with, blood in their eyes, except this final guy. So he has like super strength and stuff. So it was great to see Brother Blood come back. And we found out, he was the one who helped Count Vertigo, which I figured as soon as Count Vertigo said, there's someone else who, wants you gone, basically, I figured it has to be Brother Blood. And, it was, and it was just great to see him come back because, there have been so many things, him being introduced as a character was great. And then, as I mentioned, last week, Diggle's brother being killed by Deadshot was an order from the Hive, which is led by Brother Blood. So, we got his introduction and then his connection to Diggle, and now we have him back in an episode where he's basically recruiting other villains to, come in and kill Oliver off. So, we have him back in. He has, he's gotten to the next step of his super serum or whatever it is, and he's going to send that guy off after Oliver. So I'm excited for that, and I'm definitely excited to see, how Hive and the League of Assassins kind of cross over in this story because Malcolm's obviously, a huge character, and it was great to see him come back. John Barrowman's a great actor. And, I'm just excited to see where everything goes, all these different things, super soldiers and Malcolm Merlin just being alive. It kind of blew my mind. I couldn't believe that, but definitely excited to see where this season goes and the rest of the series because who knows, the League of Assassins could come back in. They have Hive in it, just who knows where things are going to go, but definitely excited for it. The flashback in this episode was actually really good too because it advanced things quicker than I was expecting, which was great because Oliver, they went to the plane. Oliver was basically rescued by Shadow and Slade, so they are all back together again. And, I was glad we didn't have to wait, another week or a couple more weeks to see him go and actually find them. So the team is back together. He has Sarah, I believe her name is, and they're all together and they're going to find whatever this thing is that will apparently save the human world. And, we see Slade this episode is just like half his face is just black and charred. So it just more and more he looks like Slade. And one of the things I thought was interesting, it has nothing to even do with the show. It's like one of the little promo things you guys might have seen where they show like all the different shows and the people they just stand around and look hot. That's pretty much all it was. He's like yelling at the camera. I was like, that just makes him seem like a bad guy. And it just makes me think he's definitely going to be Slade just from that. But, his face is burnt up. So far, he's still helping Oliver, obviously. So, we have to wait and see. But it's just more and more he's becoming Slade Wilson. He is Slade Wilson. So, more and more he's becoming Deathstroke. So we'll have to see how that works out. But comment below, let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Favorite part, least favorite part, and with it being, December 2nd for the next episode. And, if you saw the preview or not, it's going to be Brother Blood's, super soldier going after Oliver. But I think the biggest question is, what do you think Merlin's trying to do now? Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.